We've always been told the moon is just a dead, gray rock, our silent, unchanging companion. For as long as we've been human, it's been a symbol of constancy in the night sky. We've mapped its craters, we've walked on its surface, and we've brought back pieces to study. We feel like we know its story. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the face the moon shows us is a mask, hiding a history that's stranger, more violent, and more complex than we were ever told? From its birth in a cosmic collision of unimaginable power, to strange signals that flicker across its surface, a hidden history of our closest neighbor is slowly coming to light. This isn't the story of a quiet, dead world. It's a story of two-faced worlds, baffling chemistry, echoes from its deep interior, and phenomena that defy easy explanation. It's a history that proves we've never been told the full truth. So, what secrets does our silent companion hold, just waiting for us to ask the right questions? To get to the secret history, you first have to know the official one, the story we all learn in school. And it's a wild tale that starts not with a gentle drift, but with the single most violent event in Earth's entire history. Around 4.5 billion years ago, our solar system was a chaotic shooting gallery. The planets were still just getting started, and our own proto-Earth was on a collision course. The culprit was another baby planet, a world roughly the size of Mars, that scientists have poetically named Theia. In Greek mythology, Theia was the mother of the moon goddess, Selene, and in our scientific origin story, she gave birth to our moon in a cataclysm of fire and rock. The giant impact hypothesis says that Theia smashed into the young Earth, not head-on, but at a glancing angle. The sheer energy of this impact is just mind-boggling. We're talking trillions of times more powerful than all the world's nuclear weapons combined. The collision was devastating. Theia was completely destroyed. The Earth itself was partially vaporized, its surface turning into a global ocean of molten magma, a massive plume of superheated rock and gas. A mix of material from Earth's mantle and the shattered remains of Theia was blasted into orbit. For a little while, Earth might have even had a ring, just like Saturn, but gravity is patient. Over time, this debris started clumping together. Dust became rock, rocks became boulders, and eventually, they all merged into the single, massive body we now call the moon. This theory, which really took off after the Apollo missions, was elegant because it explains so many of the moon's weird properties. The Apollo astronauts weren't just planting flags. They were geological detectives. They brought back 382 kilograms of lunar rocks, and when scientists analyzed them, they found a smoking gun. The moon rocks were extremely low in elements like water and potassium, which would have been instantly boiled away in the intense heat of the impact. The moon also has a tiny iron core compared to Earth. The giant impact theory explains this perfectly. The moon was formed mostly from the rocky outer layers of Earth and Theia. The dense iron cores of the two planets merged and stayed with the bigger, more massive Earth. This is why the moon's density is only about 60% of our planet's. It's not made of the same overall stuff. The story was settled. Earth had a long-lost twin, Theia, and the moon was its orphan child. For decades, this was the accepted history. But as we looked closer, as our instruments got better, we started to see the first cracks in this perfect story. The giant impact hypothesis was a huge win for planetary science. It was a neat and tidy explanation, but science is never really settled, and when scientists started poking at the theory with new tools, they found a problem, a big one. It's called the isotopic crisis. Think of isotopes as a planetary fingerprint. Every planet in our solar system formed from a slightly different mix of materials, so each one has a unique isotopic signature. If the moon was formed mostly from the wreckage of Theia, its fingerprint should look like a mix of Earth and Theia, but it doesn't. When scientists ran super-precise analyses on the Apollo moon rocks, they were floored. The isotopic signatures for elements like oxygen and titanium were virtually identical to those found on Earth. The moon doesn't look like a mix of Earth and some alien planet. It looks like it was ripped almost entirely from Earth itself. This discovery threw the scientific community for a loop. How is that possible? If Theia came from a different part of the solar system, the odds of it having the exact same fingerprint as Earth are basically zero. It was like finding a long-lost sibling who, by sheer chance, turns out to be your identical twin. This didn't kill the giant impact theory, but it meant the simple version we all knew was wrong. The story had to be crazier. This puzzle has led to a new generation of more extreme and fascinating models. One idea is that the impact was far more violent than we imagined, a direct hit that vaporized a huge chunk of Earth's mantle and all of Theia. This created a massive, swirling, donut-shaped cloud of vaporized rock called a synestia. Inside this incandescent torus, material from both planets was mixed so thoroughly that their fingerprints were erased. The Moon then condensed from this well-mixed vapor, explaining its Earth-like composition. Another wild idea is the multiple impact hypothesis. What if it wasn't one giant smash-up, but 20 or more smaller ones? In this scenario, a series of large objects hit the early Earth over millions of years. Each collision would have blasted a small amount of pure Earth material into orbit, forming a tiny moonlet. Over time, these moonlets would have merged to create the one big moon we see today. More recently, a 2022 supercomputer simulation from Durham University showed that a giant impact could form a moon in a matter of hours, not centuries. In their model, a huge chunk of Earth's mantle is thrown directly into a stable orbit, creating a moon that is immediately made of mostly Earth material. What this all means is that the moon's origin story, which we thought we had solved, is once again a profound mystery. The simple picture has been shattered. Was the moon born in a single, hyper-violent event? Or is it a Frankenstein's monster, stitched together from the debris of dozens of smaller collisions? And if we were so wrong about the very beginning, what other parts of the story might be wrong too? For all of human history, we've only ever seen one side of the moon. It's tidally locked with Earth, meaning it shows us its near side, while the far side remains perpetually hidden. For millennia, it was a complete mystery, a blank canvas for our imagination. People called it the dark side of the moon, not because it's always dark, but because it was hidden in the darkness of the unknown. That all changed on October 7th, 1959. The Soviet Luna 3 probe swung around the back of the moon and sent back the first grainy, ghostly images of the hidden half. And it was nothing like we expected. It was a completely different world. The near side, the face we all know, is covered in vast, dark, smooth plains called maria, or seas. They're ancient basins that were flooded with hardened lava. But the far side was shockingly different. The images revealed a surface with almost no maria at all. Instead, it's a brutal, chaotic landscape, pale and battered by a seemingly endless number of craters. The crust on the far side is also much thicker and has a different chemical composition. It's like the moon is two different worlds stitched together. Why? Why would one half be so fundamentally different? The leading theory goes back to the moon's hot-headed youth. Right after the giant impact, both the Earth and moon were blazing hot. But while the smaller moon cooled down quickly, the Earth stayed a molten ball of magma for much longer. Its intense, radiant heat acted like a giant cosmic heat lamp, blasting the near side of the moon. This kept the near side's crust thinner and more molten. So when big asteroids hit, they punched through and triggered the vast lava flows that created the maria. The far side, shielded from the heat, cooled down and grew a thick, rigid crust that could only form craters, not seas. It's a good theory, but there's another, more tantalizing one. What if Earth once had two moons? In this version, the giant impact created our main moon, but also a smaller companion. For tens of millions of years, they shared the sky. But eventually, the smaller moon's orbit destabilized, and it went into a slow-motion collision course. Instead of a high-speed crash, it was a cosmic fender bender. The smaller moon essentially pancaked against the far side at a low speed, splattering its material across the hemisphere and forming the thick, rugged crust we see today, the buried ghost of a long-lost second moon. And just when we thought the far side was an ancient relic, new discoveries are turning that idea on its head. China's Chang'e 6 mission, which brought back the first ever samples from the far side in June 2024, confirmed that its deep mantle is colder and has way less water than the near side. The samples also point to volcanic activity as recently as 2.8 billion years ago. On top of that, NASA researchers have found ridges that appear to have formed from tectonic activity in the last 50 to 100 million years as the moon continues to slowly shrink. The Tale of Two Faces isn't just an ancient story, it's a narrative that's still being written. If you're finding this journey into the moon's hidden history as fascinating as I am, take a second to subscribe and join our community. We explore the biggest mysteries in science every week, and you won't want to miss what's next. Now, back to the secrets of the moon. During the Apollo missions, the astronauts left behind more than just footprints. They also set up seismometers to listen to the moon's heartbeat. And what they heard was weird. The plan was simple. After the Apollo crews left, Mission Control would intentionally crash the spent lunar modules and rockets into the moon. This would create artificial moonquakes, and the seismometers would record the vibrations to map out its internal structure. On November 20th, 1969, the Apollo 12 lunar module was sent crashing into the surface. The impact was about 40 miles from the seismometer. What happened next was bizarre. On Earth, seismic vibrations from a similar impact would die out in a minute or two. But on the moon, the vibrations just kept going and going. The entire moon began to reverberate like a giant bell. The ringing lasted for more than an hour. The scientists were so stunned they thought their equipment was broken. So, they did it again after the Apollo 13 mission, but this time with a much bigger 15-ton rocket stage. The impact was like setting off 11 tons of TNT. This time, the results were even more dramatic. The moon rang for over 3 hours. As one NASA scientist famously put it, the moon was ringing like a bell. This immediately fueled one of the most popular fringe theories out there, the hollow moon theory. Proponents argued the only way it could ring for so long was if it were a hollow sphere, maybe even an ancient, artificial spacecraft parked in orbit. So, is the moon hollow? Well, science has a much cooler and frankly more believable explanation. The moon rings like a bell not because it's hollow, but because it's incredibly dry and fractured. Earth's interior has water and is relatively warm, which acts like a sponge to dampen vibrations. The moon, on the other hand, is almost completely bone dry, cold, and brittle. When seismic waves hit it, there's nothing to absorb them. They just bounce around the fractured rock for hours, echoing back and forth until they finally fade. We also know the moon isn't hollow. We can calculate its mass and density with incredible precision by tracking spacecraft orbiting it, and the numbers match up with a solid body of rock. The hollow moon theory is pure pseudoscience. Still, the image of the moon ringing like a bell is a powerful one. It reminds us just how alien the lunar environment really is. It's not a smaller, grayer Earth. It's a world built differently. The echoes from the Apollo impacts weren't the sound of an empty vessel, but the sound of a world that is ancient, dry, and fundamentally different from our own. For centuries, long before we ever went there, astronomers have reported seeing strange, fleeting events on the moon. Mysterious flashes of light, reddish glows, and hazy clouds that appear and then vanish. They're called transient lunar phenomena, or TLPs. The list of sightings is long and fascinating. In 1178, a group of monks in England wrote that the crescent moon split in two, and from the midpoint, a flaming torch sprang up, spewing out fire, hot coals, and sparks. The great astronomer Sir William Herschel reported seeing what he thought were volcanic eruptions in 1787. One crater, Aristarchus, seems to be a particular hotspot for this activity. Even the Apollo 11 astronauts got involved. While Neil and Buzz were on the surface, Mission Control radioed them that an observatory had just seen a luminous phenomenon in Aristarchus. Michael Collins, orbiting in the command module, took a look and reported back that the area was indeed brighter than its surroundings, describing it as having a fluorescence. So what are these strange lights? The leading scientific theory is outgassing. Pockets of gas like radon, trapped under the surface, could be escaping through cracks. When this dust-filled gas hits sunlight, it could create a temporary glow. Another good explanation is meteorite impacts. With no atmosphere to protect it, the moon is constantly getting pelted by small rocks, and each impact can create a brief flash of light. But while these ideas explain a lot, some sightings remain a puzzle, and that ambiguity is fertile ground for more fringe ideas. Over the years, some researchers have claimed to find evidence of artificial structures in old NASA photos. The most famous was Richard Hoagland, who pointed to images that he claimed showed the Shard and the Tower, massive, spire-like structures rising miles from the lunar surface. To scientists and photo experts, however, these structures are classic examples of pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see familiar patterns in random noise. The anomalies are always found in old, grainy, low-resolution photos. When modern probes like the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter take pictures of the same spots in high resolution, the mysterious towers and shards always disappear, revealing themselves to be nothing more than oddly shaped rocks or tricks of light and shadow. They are photographic ghosts. And yet, the scientifically observed transient lunar phenomena are real. Not all of them have been fully explained. They remind us that the moon isn't a static museum piece. It's a world that still breathes, a place where gas might seep from its ancient interior and lights can flash in the darkness, leaving us to wonder. There's one more piece of the puzzle, an anomaly so profound that it happens in plain sight. You don't need a telescope, you just have to look up at the right moment. I'm talking about the perfect solar eclipse. The sun is a monster, about 1.4 million kilometers across. The moon is a pebble in comparison, at just under 3,500 kilometers. But, by a staggering coincidence, the sun is also about 400 times farther away from Earth than the moon is. That precise ratio of size and distance means that from our perspective here on Earth, the sun and the moon appear to be the exact same size in the sky. When their orbits line up just right, the moon slides in front of the sun, covering it so perfectly that only the sun's ghostly, ethereal corona is left visible. It's one of the most breathtaking sights in nature, and it is an extraordinary coincidence. No other known moon in the solar system does this for its planet. Is it just a coincidence? From a scientific perspective, yes. It's a lucky accident of geometry, and it's a temporary one. The moon is slowly drifting away from us at about 1.5 inches per year, the same speed your fingernails grow. Millions of years ago, the moon looked larger and would have completely blocked the sun and its corona. In the distant future, it will appear smaller and won't be able to cover the sun completely. We just happen to be living in the brief geological window where this perfect alignment is possible. But for those who look for a deeper meaning, it feels like something more. It feels designed. They ask, what are the odds? Could this perfect eclipse be a sign? A message written into the architecture of our solar system? This idea is a cornerstone of the most speculative theories, that the moon was placed in its orbit intentionally. Science gives a clear answer. It's a coincidence, a beautiful, awe-inspiring, and fleeting one. But the question lingers because it feels so perfect. It's a silent, geometric what-if hanging in our sky, challenging us to believe in either extraordinary luck or an extraordinary, unknown history. We started this journey with a simple idea, that the moon we think we know isn't the whole story. We've seen that its birth, once a settled story, is now a raging scientific debate. We've stood on the line between its two faces, the familiar near side and the battered, alien far side, a world we now know is far from dead. We've listened to its core ring like a bell, a sound that speaks to just how alien its structure really is. The moon that emerges is not a simple, dead rock. It's a world of contradictions. Its creation is a puzzle. Its surface is a tale of two worlds. It's a place that still groans with tectonic stress and breathes out ancient gases. The secret history of the moon isn't about alien bases or government cover-ups. It's that the mystery is real. The anomalies aren't just footnotes. They're the driving questions of modern science. The gaps in our knowledge are huge. With every new mission and every new analysis, the moon becomes more mysterious, not less. It forces us to imagine scenarios even stranger and more wonderful than we thought possible. The moon is not a dead object. It's an active character in our planet's story, a silent partner with a hidden past that it doesn't give up easily. It makes us work for the answers, build better tools, and be brave enough to admit how much we still don't know. The greatest secret of the moon might just be that its story is far from over. If you want to keep exploring the biggest questions in the cosmos, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let us know in the comments, what do you think is the moon's deepest secret? Thanks for watching.